He was small, too small to wear a soldier's armor, too young to be taken seriously, too ordinary to be remembered, and yet he changed the course of a nation with nothing more than a sling, a few stones, and an unshakable faith. This is the true story of a shepherd boy named David. And the day he stood alone in a valley, face to face with a giant named Goliath. But this is more than a story of battle. It's a story of faith against fear, light against darkness, God against the impossible. It began with silence. 2 armies, one on each hill, the valley of Elah lying quiet between them, a no-man's land that would soon echo with the sound of destiny. The Israelites stood still, frozen by dread. And every morning, every night, a shadow emerged from the Philistine camp. His name was Goliath. He was a monster of a man, over 9 feet tall, clothed in shimmering bronze. His armor alone weighed more than a man. His spear was the size of a small tree, and his voice thundered like judgment. "Choose a man among you," he shouted. "Let him come down and face me. If he wins, we will serve you. But if I defeat him, you will become our slaves." And day after day, no one stepped forward, not even King Saul. For 40 days Israel said nothing, and fear grew deeper roots. David wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even supposed to be there. He had come from the hills of Bethlehem, where he watched over sheep and played songs to God under the stars. His father, Jesse, sent him to deliver food to his older brothers on the battlefield. Some bread, some cheese, and a request for news. David arrived with the heart of a servant, but what he saw stirred the heart of a warrior. Goliath's taunts rang through the air. The name of Israel's God mocked, and still the army stood silent. David couldn't believe it. "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?" he asked, "that he should defy the armies of the living God?" The soldiers scoffed. His brothers scolded him. "Go home," they said. "Tend your sheep." But word spread, and soon David stood before the king himself. Saul looked down at him, puzzled. "You want to fight him?" the king asked. "You're just a boy." David stood tall, though still small in stature. "When a lion came for my father's sheep," he said, "I chased it. When a bear attacked, I struck it down. God rescued me then, and he will rescue me now." There was silence, and then permission. "Go," Saul said, "and may the Lord be with you." Saul offered him his own armor, bronze helmet, heavy coat, sword at his side. But David shook his head. It didn't fit. It wasn't his. He laid the armor down and picked up his sling. David stepped into the valley, alone. He stooped near the brook and picked up 5 smooth stones. One for the moment, 4 for his faith. All around him, soldiers watched, confused, horrified, ashamed. And across the valley, Goliath laughed. "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" he thundered. "Come here, boy. I'll feed your flesh to the birds." But David didn't tremble. He didn't turn. Instead, he raised his voice so the whole valley could hear. "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel whom you have defied. Today, he will deliver you into my hands, and the world will know that there is a God in Israel." Time slowed. David ran, not away but toward the giant. He reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it in the sling, and he let it fly. The sound of it cutting through the wind was sharper than any sword. It struck Goliath squarely in the forehead. A single stone, one strike, and the giant fell, face down, lifeless, defeated. The earth trembled, but not from the weight of Goliath's step, from the silence that followed his fall. David stood over him. No armor, no army, just the same sling, and a heart that had never doubted. He took Goliath's own sword and finished what the Lord had started. The Philistines watched in horror, then panic, then retreat. Israel, once paralyzed, now surged forward in faith, and a shepherd boy became the symbol of a nation's courage. But David never took the credit, because he knew this was not a battle won by strength. This was a victory given by God. He wasn't the tallest. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't even the first choice, not for king, not for war, not for anything. But David was different. Where others saw risk, he saw opportunity. Where others saw a giant, he saw a God who couldn't be mocked. What made him great wasn't his aim. It was his faith. He was bold, not because he believed in himself, but because he believed in someone greater. The same God who delivered sheep from lions, delivered a nation from fear. We all face giants. They may not wear armor or carry swords, but they shout just as loud. Fear, doubt, addiction, rejection, poverty, depression, temptation. They tower over us, daring us to fight, daring us to run. And many of us do. We hide, we delay, we tell ourselves we're too small, too late, too broken to matter. But what if David's story is our story too? What if God is still using unlikely people with unlikely tools for unimaginable victories? The truth is, it was never about the stone, never about the sling. It was about what happens when faith stands up while fear sits down. What happens when someone says, I may not be strong, but God is. I may not have much, but I'll use what I've got. I may be small, but I'm not alone. When that kind of heart steps into a valley, giants fall. David was just a boy, but he believed. And because he believed, an army found its courage. A king saw God's hand, and the world saw what happens when heaven fights for earth. So the next time you hear the voice of your Goliath, don't shrink back. Pick up your stone. Step into the valley. And remember, the battle is not yours. It belongs to the Lord. If you're ready to face your giants, type in the comments, I will not run. Like this video if it stirred your heart. Subscribe for more powerful, faith-filled Bible stories told like never before. Share it with someone who needs courage today.